This next little bit, we are taking from the general form of the equation and going to find the vertex of each one. There are two different methods. You can factor, or you can find negative b divided by 2a, and that gives you your x value, and then plug that in and find your y. And that's the method I want to show you today. So negative b, and so remember this is a, b, and c. So negative b is opposite of the positive 4 divided by 2 times a 1/2. So 2 times 1/2 is 1. So negative 4 divided by 1 is negative 4. Now I'm going to take that number and I'm going to plug it into every x up here in the original equation. And so f of negative 4, we have 1/2 times negative 4 squared plus 4 times negative 4 plus 4. 1/2 of 16 plus negative 16 plus 4. So 1/2 of 16 is 8. Minus 16 plus 4 gives me a negative 4. So my vertex is at negative 4, comma, negative 4. So number 24, we have again that 1/2 is the a. This time we have a negative 4 for b, and so we're going to plug that in. And so when we plug in a negative 4, so opposite of that 4, that's going to make that a positive, over 2 times 1/2. So that's going to be 4 divided by 1, which is positive 4. 4 is what I'm going to plug into my equation, so it's going to be f of that 4. So 1/2 times 4 squared minus 4 times 4 plus 5. And so 1/2 of 4 squared, which is half of 16, gives me 8. 4 times 4 is 16 plus 5, and that gives me a negative 3. So my ordered pair is 4, comma, negative 3. On the next one, so negative b divided by 2a is going to give me my x. So that's a and that's b. So opposite of a positive 6 is a negative 6, divided by 2 times negative 3 gives me an x value of 1. Now we're going to plug the 1 back up into the function. So f of that 1 equals negative 3 times 1 squared plus 6 times 1 minus 6. And so 1 squared is 1. Negative 3 times 1 is negative 3. Plus 6 minus 6. And my y value is negative 3. So my ordered pair is 1, comma, negative 3. This next one, a, b, c. So again, our x value is found by doing opposite b divided by 2a. So the opposite of a negative 6 is a positive 6 over 2 times negative 1, which gives me a negative 3 when I divide that. Then we're going to evaluate that back into the function. And so f of negative 3. So it means I have a negative of negative 3 squared minus 6 times a negative 3 minus 8. And so that means I am going to find out what negative 3 times negative 3 is, which is 9. And then I'll put a negative in front of it. Plus a negative 6 times a negative 3 is going to be a positive 18 minus 8, which gives me a positive 1. So my ordered pair is negative 3, comma 1. Number 27. Again, x is going to equal negative b divided by 2a. And so opposite of the b is going to be negative 12 divided by 2 times my a, which is negative 2. So negative 12 divided by negative 4 gives me a positive 3. Now I'm going to plug that back into my function, f of 3. And so that means I'm going to take that negative 2 and I'm going to multiply it times 3 squared plus 12 times 3 minus 17. And so negative 2 times my 3 squared is going to give me 3 squared is 9, so that's going to be a negative 18 plus 36 minus 17. And so that gives me a total of 1. That means that my ordered pair is 3, comma 1. And the last one like this we have is the number 28. And number 28, again, to find the x value, opposite b, so negative 12 divided by 3 times 2. And so negative 12 divided by 6 gives me a negative 2. I'm going to evaluate into my function f of negative 2 equals, and we're going to have 3 times negative 2 squared plus 12 times negative 2 plus 11. And so 3 times a negative 2 squared, so I do the negative 2 squared, so that's going to be 4. So 3 times 4 minus 24, because 12 times a negative 2 is negative 24, plus 11. So 12 minus 24 plus 11. And that gives me a negative 1 for my y. So my ordered pair is negative 2, negative 1. So when you're finding out the vertex, it's the one of the methods is a negative b divided by 2a. The other one is to factor it and set each factor equal to 0. So Sally is building a fence around her garden. She currently has 40 yards. She wants use all the fencing to create the largest area for her vegetable garden. It doesn't say anything about any walls. That means to me that she has 4 sides that are being used with the fencing. It doesn't say anything about anything dividing the area. But it does tell me it wants it in square feet. So I first need to take that 40 yards and multiply it times 3 to get it to feet. So that means I have 120 feet total. When there's no dividing pieces, that means that we're going to take and divide that number by 4 to get all 4 sides. And that means that this is going to be 30 on each side. And to find the area of a rectangle or a square, do length times width. And so the area of the garden is going to be 900 feet squared. Jimmy's working to create pens for his sheep next to the barn, so we know we have a barn here. And that wall is not going to have any fencing on it. It's just going to be the barn. He wants 3 pens. So that means we are going to be using some dividing walls. is that means I need to create 3 pins. 1, 2, 3. And in this case, we have 300 yards of fencing. I need to convert that to feet. And that gives me a total of 900 feet of fencing to use. Since we have the barn and we have dividing walls, since there's something else in the problem besides just the 4 walls, that means I need to divide it by 2. And 450 feet get to be used for my length. All my lengths added up together. And the other 450 needs to be used for all my widths. So in this barn, if I look back at it, I only have one that goes this direction. So that's only going to be one of those. That means that's going to get the whole 450. But on my widths, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. And so I need to divide it by 4 to get that width measurement. So 450 divided by 4 gives me 112.5 for my fencing width. And it's going to work just the same as we've been working, length times width. And so that means I'm going to take that 450 times the 112.5, and that is going to give me my total area. So the total area of his sheep pens is 50,625 feet squared. So let's look at what Don's wanting to build. Don is building a garden with 50 yards of fencing. He wants 4 equal-sized square regions. What's the maximum area he can create using the fencing in square feet? So in his case, it sounds like he's wanting to divide here and here. So that means I need to first, again, take that 50 yards and multiply it by 3 feet per yard. And that gives me 150 feet in total to work with. And since we have multiple things going on here, that means we need to divide it into our 2 groups, our lengths and our widths. And that means I have 75 feet to use for my width, or my lengths, and 75 feet to use for my widths. So now I need to go up to the problem and see how many of each of them do I have. I have 1, 2, 3 widths, so I'm going to divide that by 3, which gives me 25. And on my lengths, I have 1, 2, 3 lengths. So I'm going to divide that by 3 as well, which again gives me 25 feet. So to find the area, I'm going to multiply those 2 things together. 25 times 25, which is 625 feet squared. Jane creates 2 pens beside the river. So we have a river, and she has 80 yards of fencing to do this. So she wants 2 pens next to the river. So on this one, we get to first again take the 80 and multiply it by 3 to get to the how many feet of fencing we have. There's more than just 4 walls that are the same going up. So that means I need to divide it into my two portions, 20 for the lengths and 120 for the widths. And so let me look at the lengths. In this case, I only have one length, so that means that length is that amount. On the widths, I have 1, 2, 3, so I need to divide that by 3 in order to get my total, and that's going to give me 40 feet for each of the widths. And so the area is 120 feet times 40 feet. And that gives me a total of 4,800 square feet.